Hello and welcome to Lisa Loves and the monthly update of what I watched in June. I always need to think what month we're in and what last month was. I was very nearly saying May there. So let's get cracked on with what I watched last month. As always, there will be a lot of Netflix content on there. So here we go. If you didn't watch my last video, I am starting a new, more personal channel. The link I will put in the description. If you watch my previous video, you'll find out what the channel's about. And without further ado, here we go. So, on the 2nd of June, I watched Bethany, Hamilton Unstoppable. This was excellent. I've given this, what's that, 4 stars? This is a story about a young girl, a surfer, who just kicked ass. Now, I am very much one for the girls that kick ass at anything. This girl was amazing. She was a natural born surfer. She had surfed from a very young age and tragedy struck. And she was attacked by a shark and she lost one of her arms. Did that stop her? The hell it did. She got back up and on that surfboard and she went out there and surfed again. She had a baby. She surfed when she was even breastfeeding, not on the surfboard while she was breastfeeding, but as any woman that's had a child and breastfed will tell you, you're not at your physical best. You're tired, your body's not recovered from birth. She did all this and it was just amazing. This is a documentary, obviously. It's on Netflix. I very much would recommend it. I'm not a fan of surfing by any stretch of the imagination, but I love a good against the odds, kick-ass kind of story, and this very much is this. Very well made documentary, and I very much enjoyed it. On the same evening, obviously I was in the mood for a documentary. I watched Baghdad Er. It is what it sounds like. It is the emergency room in Baghdad, obviously during the war. Let me see what it says here. US Army's premier medical facility in Iraq and former site of one of Saddam Hussein's elite medical facilities. Shot over 2 months in the summer of 2005, the film puts a human face in the war's cold casualty statistics. Now, pretty much most of the people featured in this are military. Obviously there are a lot of injuries happening to civilians, which isn't so much covered in this, which is a bit of a shame. But it is pretty much following, you know, the army, so you can kind of understandable. Warning, there are some pretty horrific injuries in this. Now, I'm not a squeamish kind of person, and I'm intrigued by anything medical, operations, fixing things. You know, I don't get turned at things. Turned, would you say that anywhere else? Turn your stomach. In Northern Ireland you would say, oh, that turned me, as in that made me feel sick, it turned my stomach, made me feel nauseous. I don't get that. Something not right with me. I will feel sick if I hear someone else be sick. That's weird. I do not like the sound of anyone else being sick. That makes me feel sick. But anything else, I'm easy. It's this, the gorier the better, to be honest. And that sounds awful because this is real. And you don't want to see people suffering these kind of injuries, but it is really interesting. Now, let's try not to get political, Lisa. I'm not a fan of war. In certain cases, in the past, it's been essential. But when you see the impact on what these young men, some of them boys, go through because some big, you know, middle-aged old man that's not out there doing it has made a decision and they have to go out and put their life on the line for this decision, and you see the fallout and you see what's happening to these young men and women. It's upsetting. I find it really upsetting. But yeah, it is well worth a watch. Baghdad Er. On the 3rd, this is a bit of obviously Lisa was on a documentary fix. Obviously there's more news come out on this recently. This is the Jeffrey Epstein documentary on Netflix. The man is repugnant. I'm sure none of you need any idea as to what he did because it's all over the news. His longtime partner has now also recently been arrested, and the question is she going to throw Prince Andrew under the bus? Let's hope so. That man has obviously been up to stuff that he does not want people to know. He is lying through his arse. Is it possible that what's the girl's name? I cannot remember her name, which is ridiculous. The long-term partner of Epstein. I wonder, will she mysteriously commit suicide as well now? It was very coincident, or very convenient that Jeffrey Epstein disappeared. I wonder, will the same happen to her, given what she knows and what she could potentially mean for the royal family? But there you go, that's me being political. It's a good documentary, but it's not fantastic. It could have been better. There were other areas I would like to have seen it delve into a bit more. I don't mean graphic descriptions and things, I just mean other sides of the mechanics of things and how they managed to do the things they did, the cover-ups, the other people involved. Obviously for legal reasons they maybe couldn't put a lot of that in, but yeah, Jeffrey Epstein, just repugnant individual. On the 5th I watched a Netflix movie, no, I've clicked the same flipping thing again, In the Line of Duty. I do like this actor, what's his name? Let me scroll down for you. Aaron Eckhart, I do like him. This was okay. This was about a cop that had made a few mistakes in his life. And unfortunately one of the errors he makes, again, not a spoiler, at the beginning of the movie this happens. He kills someone that has taken someone important hostage, and he's the only person that knows where she is. And time's counting down to this person that's been taken prisoner. She's going to die if they don't find her, and he's sacked. He's told his badge is taken off him, his gun's taken off him. He's told, right, that's it, you know, no more. But because of the personal culpability he feels, he sets out to try to find this young girl, accompanied by a young vlogger who is, she like runs after news stories and she tries to record like in the moment, getting in the way quite a bit. But in this case she sort of like, I suppose it is shot like a normal film, but there are sections of found footage kind of stuff in there as she follows him. But it was entertaining. It filled an evening. It wasn't a masterpiece, it wasn't amazing, but you know, it was entertaining enough. Has my thing switched off? What's recording is finished. Lisa, you talk too much. I apologise, I talk too much, I know this. Watched Goon. This is one that's been on Netflix for ages and I'm just running out of stuff to watch. So I watched that. It stars Sean William Scott, who used to be in everything. Goon is about a young lad, not many prospects, not the brightest. He's a bouncer. Do they call that the same everywhere? He like does security on doors at nightclubs and things. And his big talent is that he can take a punch. He basically, it's almost like he's got an iron skull. The guy does not go down, and he deals, you know, his punch is legendary. Well, basically he gets hired by a prestigious American ice hockey team, as the goon, as just someone that will rough the other guys up. And he sort of goes through the season being brought on purely for that reason. He can't play. And the fact that this is actually a true story, it's like, what? The real guy wrote a book about this. And I'm thinking, is he happy to be represented as this thick chunk of a man that basically is just there to duff people up? But obviously he was, so yeah, that's the story. It's okay, it's not amazing. I felt it could have had a bit more heart about it. And there is a rather clumsy romance put in there that I didn't feel really worked. I'm not sure if that part of it's true or not, I don't think so. That was the 7th. On the 11th, Black Butterfly. Trying mainly to... Yes, I liked this. I watched this because Antonio Banderas and Jonathan Rhys-Meyers to me sounded like a pretty interesting mix. This is about an author, Antonio Banderas, who lives in an isolated area and he's stuck about writing his next book. He's got writer's block, a hideous thing that it is. And this stranger, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, their paths collide just accidentally, and Jonathan Rhys-Meyers does something for Antonio Banderas and he's struggling for somewhere to stay, so Antonio says, yeah, you can stay with me for a few days while you get sorted. And things get weird. I do not want to say to you what this movie has parallels of, but it's got parallels of a movie that I am a big fan of, that I love. That may give you a clue. It was very interesting, very psychological, there's bits where you went, oh, for Christ's sake, that wouldn't happen. But it amused me, you know, as in, it wasn't funny, it kept my attention. The acting was excellent. The story was a bit predictable. I did know what was going to happen at the end, which did happen, but it didn't spoil my enjoyment of the film. I still did enjoy it, so I would recommend Black Butterfly to you all. I give that a 3.5 out of 5. On the same evening, I watched Hearts in Atlantis. Now this has got Anthony Hopkins in. You don't need much more to make me watch a movie. It's also an adaptation of a Stephen King short, So, well, actually, Stephen King wrote a story in numerous parts. It may have been 5 parts. This movie only takes, I believe, the first and the last part. It leaves out the middle. And it's got a little bit of an air of mystery about it. It's about a young boy, fatherless young boy, who his mother's very busy with work, doesn't give him the attention he needs as a young boy. And he connects with Anthony Hopkins' character, who moves into the building that he lives in. And it's basically all surrounding their relationship, but there's a bit of a mystery surrounding Anthony Hopkins' character, and I'm not going to tell you anything about that because it will spoil the movie. It faded away. With some Stephen King works, a lot of what happens, you have to sort of use your imagination. It does end very abruptly in my viewpoint. I haven't read the source material. I wonder, does it tell you here what the source material is? I wonder, is the book called Hearts in Atlantis? I'm not sure. Anyway, it doesn't tell me here. It was enjoyable. The acting was superb. There were some beautiful moments in the film. Overall, I thought it could have been better. I gave it a 3 out of 5, which is my score if I enjoyed something, but I wouldn't rewatch it, or I wouldn't rant and rave about how amazing it was. It's worth a watch. It's different. I would say it's more of a drama than anything, with a little edge of suspense mystery in there. On the 12th, I watched First Kill. I'm trying to remember what it was. A police chief tries to solve a kidnapping that involves a bank robber holding a young boy hostage. I can't flipping remember. Is that Bruce Willis? Bruce Willis. I could have started watching this and thought it was so crap I had to turn it off. That is quite possible. I have no recollection about a bank robber holding a young boy hostage. I have no recollection. I think I must have turned that off. It was so bad, so I apologise about that. But I gave it 1.5. Would I do that if I turned it off? It may come to me. I'll go back to it. This is fantastic reviewing, isn't it, guys? On the 13th, I watched Sanctum. As I go down this, I have to remind myself what it was. This is about a diver. Is that the one? Yes. This is, parts of this have been changed, but it is a true story. This is one about a lot of divers that go down to, I don't know how these guys do this. One of my biggest things in life that I'm frightened of is, see when you see people doing caving or potholing where they crawl into these tiny spaces, honestly, I almost stop breathing. And the other thing I really don't like is underwater things, when people run out of air and I feel myself not being able to breathe. It's like horrible. This has got both. This has got the underwater squeezing through really tiny gaps. They're a group of divers and have been doing it their whole life, want to find this new undiscovered cave area that no one else has before. And as you would imagine, everything goes wrong. And it becomes a kind of a survival story. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. The fact that a lot of it is a true story adds a bit more excitement to the whole thing, as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, there will be bits that have been embellished, but the basic story is true. I gave it a 3 out of 5. Maybe I should have given it a bit more. I did enjoy it. I would recommend that one, Sanctum. Again, I think that one's on Netflix. Right, so on the same evening, I watched a movie called Mickey Bo and Me, which is also on Netflix. This probably won't have much interest to you if you're not from the north of Ireland or Ireland. It's a movie set during the 70s and in the middle of the Troubles in Northern Ireland, with a little boy from the Catholic side and a little boy from the Protestant side become friends. And very much that was not something that was encouraged back then, disgracefully. As someone that grew up during the Troubles in Northern Ireland, it was really interesting to see the representation, and you know, the family dynamic and stuff was very, you know, like the Catholic house had the Jesus Sacred Heart picture on the wall, but they got things wrong on the other side. Like most Protestant houses that I've been in, or had been in when I was a kid, would have a picture of the Queen on the wall, or would... It didn't depict the 12th of July at all, which, if you know anything about Northern Ireland, is the massive day of Loyalist parades. Didn't depict that. The flags out, the New Union Jack's out, the Northern Ireland flag out, the curbstones being painted red, white and blue. Didn't depict any of that, which I thought was weird. So it got the Catholic household quite well. I thought, growing up from a Catholic background myself, you know, they got the dynamic of the family spot on. Although Julie Walters should not have been it. I mean, every time you get a role with a working class woman in it, you don't have to put Julie Walters in. You know, her accent was horrendous. Give a local lass a go, you know what I mean? So I did feel that while it was well acted and it was quite sweet in places, and I loved the friendship between the two boys, I didn't feel there was proper representation for both sides. I felt there were whole swathes of normal life for a Protestant family left out. Explanations, you know, things about how the families got ready for the 12th and the 11th night bonfires and stuff. Things that to me, growing up, would be alien that I never experienced. None of this was represented in the movie, and I felt it should have been. So yeah, watch it if you're from here, see what you think, but I don't think it holds much if you've not got an interest in the political side of things. On the 14th, I watched The Life of David Gale. Now, I debated whether to watch this because Kevin Spacey's in it, and that kills me because, I mean, The Usual Suspects is one of my favourite movies of all time, and Kaiser Soze is my favourite character. Shit. Don't think too much about that if you haven't seen The Usual Suspects, because that's maybe a massive plot spoiler. If you've seen it, you'll know exactly what I've just done. This was good. I will admit Kevin Spacey can act. I do like him acting. Allegations not so much a fan of. This is a guy that's on death row for something that he didn't do. And this covers a young reporter. I'm trying to remember. He's accused of murder. Yes, I remember now. He's accused of murdering a fellow activist. He's very much anti the death penalty, and he finds himself on death row. And I didn't actually see where this was going. It really surprised me. There's a big fat bird on our roof, on our garage roof. I don't know what it is. I'm not surprised it's a big fat bird, the amount of food we put out for them. Well, you see, it's just one of us, isn't he? We're all fat. What can we say? So yeah, it covers this young reporter girl trying to get to the bottom of what happened and try and get him off, because surely he couldn't have done this. And I thought it was well acted. I thought it was a good movie. I did enjoy it. I gave it 3 out of 5, which is probably unfair. I probably should have given it a bit more. Yeah, it was good. I probably gave it 3 out of 5 because I was being a dick about Kevin Spacey, to be honest. But yeah, worth a watch on Netflix. 16th, Roll Red Roll. This is one I probably will cover on my true crime on this channel, which is going to stay true crime when I get the time to do it. I don't want to go into too much detail with this one. It just makes me sick. This is one about, does it say where? Steubenville, Ohio. This is the whole culture of American football jocks thinking that they're just can do what they want and get away with it. And a young girl is raped and they try and hide it and cover it. They take pictures of the act. They all are posting about it on social media, bragging about it. And it's disturbing, it's horrendous, it's horrible. And it comes to pass, this is not an uncommon thing. This happens quite a bit. And it follows the whole court case. It's a documentary, sorry. It follows the whole court case through and it interviews individuals that were connected to it. It was really well made. How many did I give? What did I give it? It was difficult, 3.5. It was very difficult to watch. As I say, I do want to go into it. I do want to cover the whole thing, which will be quite difficult, but I will anyway because it's an important thing. It will make you mad. I don't know if I would say it will make you more mad if you're a woman. Maybe just from a female perspective. The privilege of these guys thinking that they can just do and use who they want when they want because of who they are just would make you sick. It's worth a watch. It's also on BBC iPlayer if you don't have Netflix. So that's called Roll Red Roll. On the 17th, oh Jesus Christ, it's been a long time since I've seen a movie this bad, folks. I watched the whole thing as well. Last Flight to Abuja. Nigerian commercial plane. Now, obviously, mid-air difficulties, Nigerian commercial plane, emergency landing, devastating consequences. I'm thinking, yes, disaster movie. I'm sick. I like a good disaster movie. This is poorly acted. This is poorly shot. The dialogue is horrendous. I can't say an awful lot positive about this. The characters are two-dimensional at best. It's awful. It's terrible, folks. It's been a long time since I've seen something this bad. Don't put yourself through it. Again, Netflix. 18th, Cruel Peter. This was another Netflix one. 1908 in Messina, one of the richest merchant cities of the Mediterranean. Peter oh yes. Peter is the little shit of a son of a really rich family that treats people like dirt. He torments animals. He's a serial killer waiting to happen. But someone that he does wrong by, some other kids that he does wrong by, decide, I'm not having any more of this, and they do away with him. And this movie is about, well, it says in the actual Gumph where you're reading about it, a powerful earthquake razes, R-A-Z-E-S, what does that mean? Razes Messina to the ground. Peter is trapped and his whereabouts are forgotten until a century later an English archaeologist and his daughter arrive in the city. So it's a bit of a spooky one, but it's also a bit of a mystery of trying to get to the bottom of who Peter was and what happened to Peter and why. 2 out of 5. It could have been better. It had a really good premise, but the execution was a bit poor. Next one, I'm not even going to go into. The Dawn. I switched this off after about half an hour. Couldn't deal with any more of it. It was terrible. The Nun is a masterpiece in comparison. So her family are murdered at the hands of her father in the wake of World War I. She goes to a convent. Demons that plagued her father follow her, reawakening the nightmares of her past. Which sounds quite good, doesn't it? It ain't. It's terrible. The effects are terrible. The creepiness, there's none of. No. I've been wanting to see this one for a long time, The Hunt, and it didn't disappoint. I loved this. I loved how they managed to make both sides, you know, in America, let me try and get this right, I'm not really that well versed. Here we would call it right wing and left wing. In America, is it Democrat and Republican? And it manages to take the extremes of both and make them look ridiculous, which I thought was hilarious. There's a lot of anti-Trump messages in here, and as far as I remember, was there complaints about trying to ban this for that reason? But at the same time, there is an awful lot of, the left wing, the other side, are too far the other way, and it's hilarious. But it's a gory horror, and it's wonderful. It's basically a story about a group of people that kidnap a group of people. I don't want to go into too much detail, and they hunt them down. That's why it's called The Hunt. And when it started, the first 10 minutes, the first 15 minutes, I was hooked because of what happened right at the beginning. It was so unexpected. And all those tropes that you expect to... My fucking thing switched off again. And all those tropes that you expect to see, that you're sort of rolling your eyes as the movie sort of commences. Oh God, this again. And just all those tropes are just blown out of the water right at the start, and it's like, oh, fantastic, I love this. Acting is superb, the effects are amazing, the humour is on point. I love this. The cast's fantastic. You've got Betty Gilpin. If you're a fan of the series Glow, you'll know her from there. Hilary Swank's in here, Ethan Suplee, Terry, I can't pronounce that, Terry Wibley. You're probably laughing at my pronunciation. It's got a really good cast in there. And I just can't say enough good things. I really enjoyed that one. I gave that a 4 out of 5. You only get a 5 if you're damn near perfect, by the way. You Should Have Left. Oh yeah, I should have bloody left before I pressed play. I gave it a 2.5 because I thought the cinematography was really good. There was nothing wrong with the acting. I love Kevin Bacon. It was dull, it was boring. I like a slow burn, I like a good psychological movie. This was awful. There was nothing about this. Again, as it went through it, I watched it all, I'm going, oh Christ, they're going to do this, aren't they? And they did, and it was like, pfft, you could have at least given me a good ending to make me feel like I hadn't wasted my time. Wouldn't recommend. Same evening I watched 1BR. This was actually quite good. This is about a young girl who settles into an apartment, which is not what it seems. The people within that apartment are not what they seem. What does it say? I can't tell you what happens in this without ruining it, so I won't. I will say it's a really good thriller. It's worth watching. I will say the ending is really disappointing. They could have done several different things with the ending of this that would have been good. So it is good, you will enjoy it, it's a good movie, but the ending sucks. But give it a watch, see what you think. It's like a thriller with a little edge of horror in there. Acting's superb in it. The girl in it is so beautiful. Not that that's got anything to do with anything, but massive big eyes, and they've got this just way of conveying every emotion in her eyes. Stunning eyes. On the 23rd, I watched Force of Nature. 1 star. Managed half an hour of it. Mel Gibson, who again, you know, plenty of things he's done and said, but I love the guy as an actor. Braveheart's one of my favourite movies of all time. I think he's an incredible director. I think as he's got older, his acting has improved. Watched this because he was in it, and what it said sounded interesting. A gang of thieves plan a heist during a hurricane and encounter trouble when a disgraced cop tries to force everyone in the building to evacuate. Sounds good, wasn't? Was more just people prattling about their lives and not much of anything happening, and you didn't care about anyone, and it's like, just make this over already. It's flipping awful, and it was. 1 star. Clickbait, The Day After, half a point. I've actually even written a review. Unbearable, and not in a good way. The synopsis of this sounded really good. You only die once, so make sure it's live. It's about a internet, like a vlogger or whatever. She will do anything for internet fame, and she's kidnapped by a fan. Her reluctant roommate is the only one who can save her. I didn't get that far. I got 20 minutes in, and the acting was so painful. I don't know whether this was low budget or what the crack was, but when I've watched some really bad low budget movies, and this is right up there with the worst of them. It's not good. The synopsis to me sounded really good, but oh Jesus, I just couldn't. It was like watching a group of GCSE drama students. And when I say GCSE, I mean high school 15, 16-year-olds. It was awful. On the 24th, Athlete A. This is another really difficult to watch documentary about the American female gymnastics team. And for many, many years, the abuse that a lot of the young girls suffered at the hands of a doctor. Does it give his name? Larry Nassar. And this guy, it turns out, had abused hundreds and hundreds of young girls. And the reasoning and the arrogance of this man and the reasoning for the examinations he was performing, he even abused young girls with their mother in the room. He would stand with his back to the mother so that they couldn't see what he was doing. And obviously these young girls have worked their whole life under very strict, stringent coaches who are another whole issue. And they've made it to the Olympic team, or they're about to choose the Olympic team. And if they say anything, and if they try and stand up against what's happening, they're going to lose their place. So a lot of these young girls keep quiet. And eventually one girl doesn't, and one girl comes forward. And the fallout of that is she's taken off the Olympic team, and given no reason for it. And the whole association tries to cover it right from the top. And eventually a load of girls came forward and outed this guy, and it follows the court case as well. Really interesting. It's called Athlete A, because one of the girls is referred to during the court case as Athlete A. She doesn't actually give, but in the end she does actually come out with who she is. Again, upsetting, but really well made documentary. On the 26th, Eurovision Song Contest Story of Fire Saga. Now, I've heard different reviews on this. You're either going to really enjoy this or really not. If you know me, you will know I'm a massive fan of the Eurovision Song Contest. It is a cheese fest. My family every year sit down with a notebook and we rate every country out of 10, and we give our points and we pick our winners, and I never pick the right one. But I love it. I love Eurovision Song Contest. I always have. And this year we didn't have one, which was a bummer. A group of friends, we actually sat and watched all of the would-be entries for this year's Eurovision, and we scored them all. We have a little Facebook page called Eurovision Banter, and it's awful. I mean, we're such nerds. And we actually rated all the acts and we picked a winner. The Russian song for this year was fucking amazing. Anyway, back to the thing. Eurovision Song Contest Story of Fire saga. Will Ferrell and, what's her name? Rachel McAdams star as a, is it Finnish? Finnish? Is it Finnish? Why does it not say? I think they're Finnish. I'm going to get that wrong. I bet I'm wrong. Lars and Sigrid. And as children, they fall in love with the Eurovision Song Contest when they see ABBA on telly doing Waterloo. And it's Will Ferrell's character's dream in life to represent his country in the Eurovision. And by an accident of fate, they end up in the running to represent their country in the Eurovision Song Contest. And oh my god, the music is, honestly, the songs really would smash it at the Eurovision. If you don't like cheesy music, you probably hate it. I loved it. They also had loads of like previous contestants of the Eurovision in the film. They had this sing-along part where they just bring in loads of winners and loads of people. They're all living in a big house, the people that are going to be representing the Eurovision Song Contest. And they do this thing called a sing-along where they sing a song, but they sing loads of songs, loads of different well-known songs. And all these individuals are doing their bit and then it passes to the next one. And it's all famous Eurovision people. And if you're an anorak like me, you're like, oh, look, it's that person, it's that person. I loved it. It was fun. It's not to be taken seriously. There's some bits made me laugh out loud. There's a particular bit Darren says, oh, they so should have done this there, and then it was no sooner out his mouth than it happened. And he was satisfied because they did what he thought would have been hilarious. I loved it. If you like cheesy, stupid stuff, give this a go. I loved it. And the songs, I love Volcano Man, which is obviously supposed to be really stupid. I love it. So on the 27th, I watched The Girl on the Train again because Darren hadn't seen it. I saw that in the cinema when it first came out. Really good movie with, what's her name? Emily Blunt, is it? Emily Blunt as a girl on a train that basically sees this woman every day out the window and wonders about her life. There's a lot more to it, but she realises something has happened and she's trying to investigate this thing that's happened, and I don't want to go into any detail. It's a really, really good thriller. I would recommend it. You properly have to sit down and watch it and not like be doing something else or you'll miss stuff. But I would recommend it. But I'd imagine if you're watching this, you've seen it. Charlie's Angels. With school being off, I'm trying to find stuff I can watch with Isaac that I'm not going to detest. I didn't have the best hopes for this, but I watched it anyway. Jesus Christ, it's awful. Isaac enjoyed it. I have to say I've got a bit of a girl crush on Kirsten Stewart as she gets older. She's very, very pretty. I like her in movies. I don't know why, I just do. But the movie itself was just abysmal. Inheritance on the 29th. Yes, a patriarchy of a wealthy and powerful family suddenly passes away, leaving his wife and daughter with a shocking secret inheritance that threatens to unravel and destroy their lives. This is really good. Simon Pegg's in this. I didn't realise it was Simon Pegg for a good 15 minutes. I really enjoyed that. Something is left to this daughter, and all I'll say is it's a secret, and it's a secret that no one else is allowed to know about. And she needs to dig into what's happened, why it's happened, how it's happened. And it just threatens to completely change who she thought her father was. Really good. I'd recommend it. I thought it was excellent. Didn't like the ending, but the ending was okay. It wasn't to my taste, but because you're going, oh God, no, why would you be that stupid? But it's a good film. On the 30th, we've only got 2 more, folks. Becky. I'd heard people talking about Becky and Mothers of Monsters, so I had to see both. Becky, I was doing something else at the time. This has got excellent special effects in it, some fantastic gore, a couple of funny bits that really made me laugh, a couple of things that happened which in normal films don't happen, but in this did, and I thought, oh yeah, that's good, I like that. This is about a young girl who goes on holiday with her father and her, her father's partner and her child. She's not very happy. She's lost her mother, her mother has died. She's not really wanting to accept a new woman into the family, but they go on this holiday, which she doesn't want to be on, and they inadvertently managed to collide with a group of escaped convicts. And this girl basically kicks their arse. I've heard her described as Bambo, as in a female Rambo, but little girl, and I'll tell you who's in this. The guy that plays Paul Blart Mall Cop. Darren's going, is that Paul Blart Mall Cop? And I go, nah. He's a really big scary bugger in this. He's a bad guy and he's really good. It was really enjoyable. It was a lot of fun. It's not gonna like win any awards for being, innovative or anything, but it's got some great special effects. And lastly, MOM, Mothers of Monsters. Really interesting movie this. This is about a mother that thinks her teenage son is a psychopath, and she's been recording videos her whole life. Sorry, not her whole life, but from when her son's been a little kid. I think he's 17 now. And just different things he does. She puts hidden cameras everywhere. She records disagreements, arguments, flare-ups, tantrums, just different things that is making her think that he is a monster. She also has evidence and believes that he is going to go on a shooting spree at his school. There is evidence, she mentions, that they've moved a lot, so you're sort of like left wondering all through the movie it's found footage as well style. It won't appeal to everyone. It's quite slow moving, really good character piece. The acting is superb in this, but it only really has got the mother and son in there. There's the occasional video chat with the grandma, but nothing much. But yeah, it takes some unexpected turns and it felt real. It felt like something that could actually happen. The ending of it was satisfying to me. And it just seemed unnervingly like something that could really happen, and frightening. And as a mother of a son, Jesus Christ, that thing with, can you really help what your child becomes, and what if your child becomes a bad person? And it makes you think as a parent. I'm hoping Isaac's not going to turn into a psychopath or anything, but yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. I did enjoy that one. And that, folks, is the end of what I've watched. Let's close all that down. Look at that beautiful picture of Nikki Borg. I think my recording stopped. Backyard Babies are doing a live gig tonight on YouTube's. This won't be up by then, so there's no point in me advertising it. I can't wait. Although it probably will be on there for you to watch afterwards. But yeah, that's what I've watched for the past month. I'm hoping to get back to my true crime content soon, as I've stopped homeschooling for the summer. Obviously Isaac's at home all the time, so it does get a bit difficult to record and have the silence to record and get the stuff edited and up and that sort of thing, but I will try my best. I am transferring all my personal content, like vlogs, all of that sort of stuff, over to my new channel, Kit and Caboodle. So if you want to sort of follow my personal stuff and vlogs and holiday stuff and reviews of, like, I don't know, skincare, makeup products, whatever, scoot on over to the other channel and subscribe on there. But yeah, thanks for listening, folks.